Hi planty friends, and welcome back to my channel where we take a deep dive into everything green and growing. Today we are talking about one of the most elegant houseplants, and that is the orchid. If you struggle to keep your orchid thriving or you're just getting started, this is the video for you. Did you know that there's approximately 28 to 30,000 species of orchids, making them one of the most diverse and unique plant families in the entire world? Orchids are found on every continent except Antarctica, thriving in all kinds of environments from the tropical rainforest to arid deserts. Some are epiphytic, meaning that they grow on trees, and some are terrestrial, meaning that they grow in the ground. You may have even consumed a piece of an orchid today. Did you know that the vanilla bean comes from an orchid? One of the most common species of orchids are actually called the Phalaenopsis orchids, and those are going to be the orchids that we are talking about today. These are the orchids that you find in most grocery stores. You see them very large and you also see them very small. Now, the mini Phalaenopsis orchids are not the same as the large Phalaenopsis orchids. The mini orchids will stay this small. The larger Phalaenopsis orchids at this size would not have the capability of blooming. Orchids love bright indirect light. You're going to want to place your orchid near an east or a north-facing window. Once your orchid has bloomed, you can move it to a shadier spot and use it as decor on a coffee table or a dining room table. All right, so next we're going to talk about pots and soil. Orchids, being epiphytic, meaning that they grow on trees, need to be able to see the sun. Also, their roots need to be able to see the sun because in the wild, those roots are not in the ground. They are not inside of soil. They have a bright view of the sky just as well as the leaves and the blooms do. So one of the best pots that you can get for your orchid are these clear pots, and you're going to need lots of aeration, meaning that you're going to need lots of slits down the side or these holes that allow for aeration to get into the roots. For soil, you are going to want to use something like this orchid bark. You can use any brand of orchid bark, but you aren't going to want soil. You're going to want bark that looks something like a tree bark because, again, being epiphytic, they are not going to want to be suffocated in soil. They are going to need an extremely airy substrate mix. Now, if you just got an orchid from the grocery store or you've had an orchid that the blooms are starting to die off, it's probably time to repot. You'll want to repot every 1 to 2 years, and you know that it's time to repot when the blooms start dying off and they look kind of crispy or they're just not looking so great, or if your blooms have completely died off and there's only a spike left. Now, in order to repot and in order to get your blooms to come back the next time, you will want to take this spike and you're going to want to cut it all the way down to the leaf base. Okay, so you just got your orchid home from the grocery store. It may have been on clearance, or your blooms are starting to die back and it's now time to repot. In order to get these flower spikes to bloom again, you are going to need to chop them. So you're gonna unclip them, you're gonna take out the flower support spikes, and then you are going to take a nice, clean, sanitized pair of shears. You can sanitize with rubbing alcohol or hydrogen peroxide. And you can take and follow this stem all the way down and chop it at its base. Or you can follow to the last active node. So if you follow this spike all the way down to where there is an active node, but a flower has not come out, you can snip. You can snip right there at that last active node. Now, if you snip at the last active node, when your flower blooms come back, it will branch out from that last spike and you're going to be able to get blooms that way. Personally, I like to snip all the way down because I believe that you get more flower blooms that way. Other people think elsewise. It's all personal preference and what you prefer. Okay, so when you go to repot your orchid, you're going to want to dump out that old orchid bark and gently pull the plant from, you're going to want to gently pull the plant from the pot. And normally inside, you're going to see, once all of that orchid bark falls out, you might see a plug in there. You can just pull that away. A plug is just a soil plug where the nurseries may have grown the plant from initially. Now, once you have all of that excess soil mixture off, you are going to want to take some warm water and rinse those roots and let them soak for about 5 to 10 minutes. Now, once the roots are done soaking, you will see either some green or some white roots. As long as they are plump, that is what you want. Those are good, healthy roots. Anything that is papery thin or anything that is mushy, you're gonna wanna chop those off. Now, once you have a nice, cleanly washed, cleanly cut up orchid, you are going to want to repot it. So you're just going to add a little bit of orchid bark to the bottom. That may have been too much. And you're going to want to place your orchid in there where a couple of the roots do pop out over the top. Because again, they are aerial roots. They are roots that want to see the sun. And then you're just going to fill that in around the roots, and you're just going to tap the side of that pot in order to get them to all settle down around the roots. Now, when it comes to watering your orchid, you're going to want to run it under warm water for about 5 to 10 minutes, being careful to avoid the crown so that you don't cause any crown rot to your orchid. Also, if you see one of these tags that say just add ice orchids, you're going to want to completely disregard that. Continue to water your orchids, like I said, with warm water. They are tropical species. They are from warmer climates. They do not appreciate ice. In the wild, they're never going to get cold water. All the water that they're getting is rainwater from warm climates. Now that you have a freshly repotted and freshly watered orchid, let's talk fertilization. Fertilization can make a huge difference in how the quality of your blooms are when they come back and how they come back. So you're going to want to fertilize this plant about once a month during the growing season. Once your blooms come back, you can stop fertilizing. And there you go, friends. With a little patience and the right amount of care, your orchids will continue to bloom year after year. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more planty content. And if there's a specific plant that you would like to see featured in the next video, please leave that down in the comments below. And until next time, stay leafy and stay lovely. Bye!